Hello again, and welcome to the Master's Voice. I am Celestial, and you are welcome to this channel. To old and new subscribers alike, you are very welcome. This video is going to be released on all channels at the same time because it still has to do with political changes and coming changes that the Lord wants us to be aware of. This is a collection of things that the Lord has been saying concerning America's prophetic direction. Politically, what is that going to look like? So these prophecies that I will be going over stretch all the way from 2020 to 2022, and it is simply titled Changes Ahead Part 2. And all that it is a collection of short snips, some of them published, relating to Kamala Harris, and some other things not published that God would just say to me in conversation. So God has mentioned about a Jewish group called Shabbat, I think. I will deal with that. That prophecy was received on October 19. God has mentioned the Speaker of the House. That prophecy was received on October the 31st, 2022. God mentioned something about Joe Biden. That prophecy was received in August of 2021. It was just part of my notes and I never published it. But now I'm just bringing all these things out. And so this is about Kamala Harris, and this is about the United States. Various things that have been published on the Master's Voice. That's www.the-masters-voice.com. This is where you can go and see every single thing that I'm speaking about on this channel in print. It has been there since May 2019. That does not mean that I started to receive prophecy in May 2019. I've been receiving these words from the Lord since 2012 until now, simply compiling them and putting them in my archives until the Lord told me in 2019 to open up a public space and put them there. And then after a year, more than a year, then he told me to start the YouTube channel, and that's how you see me here now. So on November the 3rd, 2020, which is when we voted, the Lord gave me the prophecy, No More Grace. And what God was basically saying in No More Grace is, I was interceding for America, because if you read the written prophecy, I said that the dread and the doom that was on my heart that day was so palpable that eventually I could not do anything. I could not work. I could not read. I could not rest. I had to log out of everything, ask for permission, and sit down in front of my prayer place and begin to seek the Lord. And what I was saying was, God, have mercy on us. I was saying, God, have mercy on us. God, pity us, your people. Pity this nation. And the Lord very sternly said to me, do not be like them, because they abuse my grace. Do not be like them that think they will always keep coming and asking for a second chance. And when that chance is granted to them, they never repent, they never change, they never do better. America, honestly, if you feel the Lord is being unfaithful and if you feel the Lord is accusing you unjustly, look at this nation in the past 30 years and ask yourself, all the reform programs that have come forth, have they made the nation better or worse? All the new laws that have been promulgated, every day a new law, every day a new regulation, have those regulations protected the widow and the orphan, the fatherless? Do you see the homeless in our states being taken care of? Or are they making more and more laws to drive these people out? It is very difficult to be homeless. It is a heartbreaking process. God told me once, you people are the only ones who are born without your natural habitat being there to protect you. We don't have fur, we don't have fins, we don't have a turtle shell, we don't have dens. He said the only thing that keeps you safe is your homes. And when your homes, your towns, and your cities are destroyed, it is devastating for you, because you are born naked, and naked you stay until the day you come back to me. Are we making laws to take care of these people? We are currently in the middle of an administration that is handing out needles and rubber arm stoppers to people who are on drugs. Do we really think that the storyline that we are being given, oh, it's dangerous for them to share needles. So you provide fresh needles for them to get their junkie on instead of coming up with programs to get them off the streets. Winter is coming, snow is coming, and people are living in trailer parks all over the city. And I don't mean the neat ones that you can live in. I mean these makeshift ones that are under the bridges, and then the cops come and say, move along, move along. Can we honestly say that with all the chances God has given since 9/11, that we are doing our best, that laws and the people that keep getting into power are out here promoting the best interests of the country? The Lord, He put me off, and He told me, don't be like them, and don't come asking for a second chance for them. I will not give this country any more grace. From now on, everything that the people who hate her and that the people who want to destroy her have planned for her, every single thing, I am going to allow them to do it. Do you know what it is for God to step back and take His hand from on you and tell you, you didn't want me in the schools, you didn't want me even in the churches because you're so busy following your fake Jesus that is promising you rainbows and fairy tales? I will withdraw many of these prophecies. The Lord has said, you will find out what it is like to be in the hands of Satan. And so on November 3rd, the very day that people were exercising their civil rights, the Lord said that there would be no grace to this country. Just a moment, please. God said that He would not show America any more mercy. He said that He would let things take their natural course. And I have to tell you, the natural course that is planned for this country is to drive it at top speed and then smash it into a wall. They've already strapped themselves up, so they don't intend to be the crash test dummies that die. And so He said the architects of the New World Order, aka the coming beast system, people who have no natural affection for America, are actively breaking her apart and dismantling her from within so that this new government can rise. And God said all the way back then that we will start to see events happening in this country like theater. He said it would literally be like watching a puppet show, like watching one puppet after another come to the forefront and say their lines, and then the next act and the next scene, except that as the next act and the next scene begins to go and roll into the next and the next, it will be harder and harder to actually tell, well, which way is this story going? So next, on February the 2nd, 2021, the prophecy is called Devi and Shet. And I will leave the link for this prophecy in the description box, and I will leave it in my pinned comment. All you then do is click that link, you come back to the blog, you read. Each prophecy is underlined and it's hyperlinked, meaning if you click on it, it'll take you to that separate prophecy with the video at the bottom. February 2nd, 2021, God began to talk about the Muslim presence in America and how Muslims will come to total control in this country. So I see many people, they're trying to work out the puzzle pieces, and they're like, well, how can Muslims rule? And then how can the Nazis rule? And then how can the Russians rule? And then how can the beast government rule? And all I know when I see this is people who actually think in a very straight line, and they too are going to crash into a wall as the Lord said. If you've never heard of special interest groups, and if you don't think that multiple groups of enemies can all come together for a common standard to destroy one common enemy, which is the United States. If you really think, for instance, that it's impossible for the Saudis to work with the Russians to come to a common destruction of a common enemy, then you should just read more books. In the near time to come, Muslims will take control of America and tell her what to do. They will be a prevalent force in this nation. They will become the main citizens and people of power. They will milk the breast of this nation, and all her wealth will flow to them. Barack Obama will be the ruling force in this nation. Whatever he tells America to do, she will do. Once Kamala Harris rises to power, watch and see. Obama will effectively rise to power with her, and all visible governance will flow through him to America. So as far back as February 2021, just a few months after the election, God is saying He's not even really pointing to the importance of Kamala Harris, except to say that this woman is a Trojan horse, a hidden hand through which Obama will be able to operate and manipulate America. And he says whatever she tells America to do, meaning whatever Kamala Harris tells America to do, God says effectively it is he, Obama, telling America to do that thing. And he said that is what the nation will do. Power will be usurped. This means to be taken in a secret coup. Everything that I'm telling you here, it may seem so obvious to some people, but other people, if you were to tell them this, they would absolutely refuse that it is the reality. They literally believe that they are a functional part of the democratic process in this country, and that whatever we see happening, it is a true representation of the will of the people. It is not. The Lord says that America will suffer a coup. So most countries, they will have a coup. There's guns, there's shooting. I said this in previous prophecies that we think a coup is visible upset of power, but what will happen here will be slick, and almost 99% of it will happen behind the scenes. And God says that after that surface coup occurs, the rise of Islam in America will begin, and Islam will rule America. And I shared in either this prophecy or the prophecy about the coming of the Mahdi, that's the name of it, where I said that I saw in America that they were cutting people's hands off for transgressions. They were cutting hands off, and they were cutting heads off as part of fully established Sharia law. And instead of fleeing for the hills, people were still living and acquiescing, agreeing to that law. And then the next prophecy is called power changing without hands, which means without votes, which I just said. And this is from August 9, 2021. And God said to me, Joe Biden is not what he looks like. Joe Biden is not as he is being represented. He said to me, Celestial, that person on camera is a clone. That person on camera is a clone. They are allowing it to malfunction and to deteriorate on camera, because with every fall and every stumble, the confidence of America falls and stumbles along with it. And I'm going to stop right here. In 2019, God was saying that America would begin to become the laughingstock of the world, so that America would begin to suffer palpable loss of influence, as in where she used to say things and her word is law, people would be like, yeah, okay, thanks for letting us know how you feel. We're just going to carry on and do what we want to. And definitely one country that's doing that is India. More and more India is like, well, thank you so much, press secretary, for publicizing what America thinks about our actions. But we're just going to go home and represent our national interests. And Germany is doing that more. And I think Norway is doing that more. And more we see now, years after God said this, we are seeing more and more that countries are choosing to represent their national interests rather than go along with what America always does, which is, if you're not with us, then you're against us. And the other countries are like, yeah, well, I guess we're against you, and good luck with that. So this feeds into what God says, that this is not a real person that they put on camera. You're listening to this and you're thinking, well, I was going to try and listen to you, lady, but I'm not going to listen to you if you're talking about clones. And yet there are about 4 months painstaking prophecy explaining that God said that there are Nephilim, they're hybrids, they are extremely well-made human representations that look like people but are not people. They are called synthetics. And he said that there are high-value synthetics that are grown from human skin, bone, and tissue. And that when you see these things in the street, they even have the ability to reproduce. They can actually give out male seed. They can actually have female eggs. They can bring forth life, but that thing is soulless. It looks real. It is appearing as man, but it is not man. And God said that they definitely have a version of President Biden like that is allowed to be on camera and malfunction and make all the bumbles and fall off the bike and stumble on Air Force One. And then you observe and you're like, oh, this is elder abuse, and oh no, he's incompetent and everything like that. But what God is always telling us, I will read it from the top of the prophecy: do not depend on the government. Do not rely on what they tell you. It is a lie. Do not be ignorant of their ways. What are their ways? Deceiving, constantly lying, constantly playing a game of cards and sleight of hand. That's their ways. Do not be ignorant of their ways, unless you will end up a casualty of what you do not know. Instead, stay vigilant and keep your eyes on the Lord. And so when you have a person malfunctioning and deteriorating on camera, what it does is deliberately lowers confidence of all member states of the UN, all watching nations, to say, well, we can't take a country seriously that has a guy falling off a stationary bike and things like that. And it is all carefully planned because it is all leading somewhere. Think about this geopolitically. When people fear this country for whatever reasons, because this country loves to traffic in fear instead of traffic in negotiation and relationships that are strong, we prefer to use strong arm tactics. We prefer to use fear. And so everybody else toes the line. What happens to in America when every time President Xi calls President Putin, they have to spend the first 8 minutes of the conversation laughing about the latest thing that they saw on American TV, either the high gas prices or the high food prices or somebody rolling down the stairs of Air Force One? What do you think that does to a nation's enemies? It emboldens them. They begin to say, well, it's time to move to stage 2 and 5 and 10 of the plan because things are favoring us. And this is deliberately done from inside here on this end. God says that whenever that clone is bumbling around and malfunctioning and deteriorating on camera, every fall and every stumble is costing America in terms of her political influence, confidence of the American people in the nation and in the leadership. As he falls, he says, American confidence falls. As he stumbles, American confidence stumbles. And he says when they have no further use for that clone, they're simply going to switch it off. And then turmoil and pandemonium will really take hold of America. The Lord said Kamala Harris is already basically installed in the White House. She's already in office in every sense of the word. They're familiarizing her with everything so that when the moment comes to transition, they hope it will go smoothly. God says they're doing everything to iron out every kink and get rid of every bump. And yet he says that the one thing that they will not be able to control fully is the response of the people. In spite of all they do, it will not go smoothly. Transition of power without votes, he says, which is where a president dies or is declared incompetent or is impeached and removed from office and the vice takes his place. He says that kind of transition has not happened for a very long time in this nation's history. And when it does happen, and it's this woman taking the seat, he said there will be upheaval and pushback in America like you can't believe. The next prophecy is called Undone. Got this prophecy July the 3rd, 2021. And this clip from that prophecy says, prepare yourself for the political shaking that is coming. Upheaval and drama are coming. Theater, events happening like in a movie where the actors play their part and nothing is real. See how consistent of the Spirit of the Lord is. Over the years, the same language, movies, puppets, actors playing a part, upheaval, political shakings. These phrases keep coming and coming. God says we will see movie drama in the halls of power as Joe Biden is removed. Joe Biden will fall. Kamala Harris will rise. And he says another whose shadow never left the White House is going to rise with Kamala Harris. So back when President Biden and Kamala Harris were coming in, the Lord was revealing these prophecies. And he was saying at the time that Mr. Sanders was galloping strong and Joe Biden was like in the bottom 5, the Lord gave the word in April of 2020 and said Joe Biden is going to get this primary. And I said, Lord, the people haven't even figured out how we're going to have the primary because we're under lockdown. They have not decided. They will cancel the primaries, have the primaries. How are they going to primary? And then you're saying that Joe Biden, who is in the wind, is going to have this thing. And the Lord said, listen to me. Joe Biden is going to get this nomination. And when he comes in, he's bringing 2 people with him. He's bringing Barack Obama and he's bringing Kamala Harris with him. And so I wrote those things. And the Lord was showing me how America's heart is always stirred up and she gets so nostalgic whenever she sees Barack Obama's face. He was showing me visions of the nation lighting up when Obama would go on the campaign trail for Joe Biden. I wrote this in April 2020, when nobody knew that that man was going to kick off his retirement, put on his campaign trail boots and start going, and Joe, and Joe, and Joe. And you see him exactly as God said. I wrote that we will see him in his familiar disguise, rolled up sleeves, the hard-working architect of a hard-working America. And the nation was going to light up with the warmth. Oh, Obama and Joe back together. I said, I saw that man standing at the podium alone sometimes while Joe Biden and everyone else stood at the back like, oh, watching him like proud parents. And did he not go out campaigning in Pennsylvania? Did he not go to Atlanta, Georgia on his own, campaigning for a race that we all know he is not qualified to run? And is he not doing it again? And why don't people want to listen? Because they want to listen to deception, the dictates of their own heart, and thinking that they are in the driver's seat when they don't know that a big scaly dragon is driving us directly into the wall. Save the mercy of God. And so God said that Biden would come in, he would get the nomination, he would win, and that he was coming in and bringing two people with him, Kamala Harris and Barack Obama. And this is coming out from back then, exactly how God said it, except that now it's obvious to everyone. Prophecy is always obvious to everyone when it's happening, except that I was saying it all the way back then when everybody was expecting the red wave and the red tsunami. And here we are. He said that the White House is going to experience replacement theory, a sitting leader replaced seamlessly by another one. Biden will be taken away, and then you will see the new world order, bolder, more open than you've ever seen it before. The times are finished for America. In the end, everything that she has ever done, all her works, her legacy, everything that this country has represented will be removed. And even she and her leaders will also be removed. And the feeling that I was having as the Lord was giving me this prophecy back in July of 2021 is that the White House is going to do its best to put on a show for people when Joe Biden falls. They will keep it busy like, look, America, this is unprecedented. This hasn't happened since we used to give you the news in black and white, but we're going to get through this together. We're going to keep the country on track. But he says that it is sleight of hand. They're going to keep activity busy in one area while something else is happening behind the scenes. The next prophecy is called A People of Madness, December the 5th, 2021. I had a vision of Kamala Harris mounting the podium on a windy day, and she was speaking to the American people as Joe Biden was there. It was an outdoor crowd, and the feeling that I had watching this vision was that after this woman takes office, America will go haywire. Why? Because there will come a decline and a destruction of our rules. This will become a lawless nation. Why? The government, as I just explained in yesterday's prophecy, several prophecies concerning this woman. If there's one thing you need to hold in your mind, please, people of God, when you think of this woman, just think of someone who is going to break all the rules you hold dear. Whatever rules keep this country together, whatever laws bind her and make her at least still look like she's upright, these things will be broken down. There are many ways to break down laws. In a dictatorship, you simply wake up one morning and say, we're not doing this anymore, and anyone who does it will be shot and their body will be thrown into the sea. That's one way to do it. But in a country that is used to certain rights, is used to their freedom, their voting, their democracy, their weapons, you can't come out and do that. What you do is you begin to, thank you, Lord, you begin to do things gradually. It is called the eating away of the sand. And I spoke of seeing America as a red cliff. The ocean had eaten her away to such a degree that there was a huge curvature of this rock. And there was only a little bit more for the sea to eat, and the whole thing was going to crash and fall into the sea. You don't just come to a democratic nation where the Constitution is online and all the different laws and amendments are online, and people can just say, well, I don't think so, officer, and just roll up their window and they know their rights and there's nothing the cop can do. No, what you do is you gradually erode the right. Let's look at the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment says that this is an absolute right to form militias and an absolute right to have your little whippersnapper at home with you to defend personal property and life and government overreach. Yet, here in New York City, we are rapidly seeing the expansion of what are known as whippersnapper free zones, for the sake of editing on this video. So all of a sudden, they haven't taken away the Second Amendment, but now in New York, we're told, well, you know, all this concealed carry, open carry, and carrying. Well, we now have whippersnapper free zones. We don't want any whippersnappers here where the kids are. And you can't have whippersnappers in this area and this area. And tell me, is that not an erosion of the absolute law? If the law is absolute, it is like a marble slab here. But if you come under that marble slab and say, well, marble slab, you're still there. But then if you come to the movies, you can't bring a whippersnapper. And if you come to any school, you're banned from having a whippersnapper. Then the marble slab is there, but then you're beginning to have zones where the marble slab is not operable. The marble slab is not able to go there. And then what does that mean? That means that you are facing limitations to the absolution of the law. And they will eventually do that until the marble slab is up there and the whole country has been legislated with small laws that make it whippersnapper free. But then the marble slab is up there and then eventually someone's going to go like, that's not doing anything. Let's vote 3,000 to 1 to get rid of it. And in a single day, that thing will be gone. That is how it's done in the legal system. And so God was showing that it will come a time of great lawlessness because the rules will be broken down. And the response from the people is that if the government is just going to do anything it wants and call it legal, so just do a ton of illegal stuff and then say, oh no, we followed due process and we all talked about it and it's legal, the people will begin to backlash. I saw people becoming extremely short-tempered, very reckless. They were doing anything, saying anything. They were constantly out in the street, protesting, disobeying the rules, getting violent in the street far more frequently than they had ever done. And people were just mad that this woman was president. Even the happy feminists and the celebrating LGBTQI crowd, they could not cover up the fact of how much anger was in this country when she came forward. And I saw that this anger was on the right and the left of the political aisle. And so God says it is into this kind of restless climate that we will see the first seeds that will eventually lead to civil war. The next prophecy was a prayer call that came to me on October the 14th, 2022. And in that, the only part that I've lifted here is that God says that Americans will be harshly disappointed watching the way that power will move and shift and the changes that will come to this nation going forward. He says things that will begin to malfunction in the political arena so much. So the political world is just going to become a minefield of unpredictability. You think it's going to go left, it's going way right or under or above or backwards. People will experience extreme frustration. That was the theme in that call. It said, America, you will be frustrated. You will think you're going into the voting booths to do something, and you think you'll be getting together in your special interest groups to do something, and nothing will work out the way you want. And at the point of seeing the election results and political moves break down, God says, and here it is again, now, a year later from the other one I just read, it says that other countries will see this and begin to mock. And in that prayer call, God said, Italians will be laughing, the British, the German, the French, obviously the Russians. And people will start to say things like, America needs help in the election process. America needs independent observers. That's what he was saying. The country that always sends her people to observe other people's elections, people will start to say, I think we need to get some observers out there to help the Americans get their politics right. The Lord says we can prepare to keep experiencing the following: high prices, blatant disrespect for civil and constitutional rights, and iron fist of government forming. Just expect more restrictions, more laws, more of 2020. Protests in the streets. that will be directly related to political issues and the rise of militant feminism. If you want to hear more on this, I will link the prophecy below. At the very end, I spoke for about 8 minutes on what it means for a country to see the people with the wombs start acting like deployed military cops in the streets, women aggressive, violent, and willing to do things that right now people think they are not capable of doing. And so these are the words that the Lord has for us. The name of this prophecy is called Changes Ahead, Part 2, a look back over the rise and the prophesying of the coming of Mrs. Kamala Harris between the time period of 2020 to 2022. Oh, there is more. On October the 28th, God said that America will be broken down. America is going to receive a judgment that will make her know that she can be touched. So this idea that, oh, this is an untouchable nation, God says that when that thing that will be bigger than 9/11 happens, America will know that she is very touchable. He also spoke of the Clintons. I covered it in one of these prophecies recently. I think it's in the prayer call. It's also in the prophecy Ready Player One, where God says that the beast is going to clean up all his loose ends. So anyone who knows secrets about Mr. Obama, anyone who was at some point in on the plan, is going to be treated as a loose end later on, so that Bill and Hillary Clinton will be not living anymore, and so will ex-President Donald Trump. On the 31st of October, this would literally be yesterday. Yesterday's prayer call was definitely for the saints of God, that they should make progress in their lives and they should live their lives without fear, despite all. In the middle of that, one startling, shocking sentence came through. Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, will be killed, the Lord said. And it came through twice. Nancy Pelosi will be killed. And then he said she will meet a short, sharp end. And the feeling that was in me was when you are about to leave a building and you reach out a hand casually and you flick off the lights. The feeling was like, sip, like that. Ended as suddenly, as unexpectedly as sip, like that. The Speaker of the House will lose her life. She will meet a short, sharp end. The last thing, let me see if I can fit it in. It was received October 19, 2022. And the Lord spoke about what I thought was just a Bible study group when I first looked it up. It was a group of people that God says is heavily involved in the U.S. political process, heavily involved in influencing U.S. elections, and they are called Shabbat. So I heard this in my sleep. God was talking about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is an idol. People are worshiping him. He says that he did not send this man, and he definitely did not send this man for America to lift him up in idolatry and say he is God's man. The Lord was insisting that Mr. Trump is not his man, and he says that Trump is involved with these people called Shabbat. So I thought it was a Bible study group, but it is not. They appear on the internet as a place that publishes information on the Sabbath and the new moons and things like that. But when I looked into it, it turns out that it is a group of 100,000 Hasidic Jews based here in New York City. And so I will have to continue this prophecy because I'm running out of recording space right now. Just a moment, please. So when I looked into it, Shabbat, it is spelled Chabad, is not just a website that shows Jewish festivals and the Jewish calendars. It is actually a well-organized gathering of almost 100,000 Hasidic Jews, and they are based right here in New York City. And I'm not speaking about the Jews that are more Americanized and sometimes secular, and they will only perhaps keep Passover and 1 or 2 feasts. These are people who are 100%. They keep the Jewish clothing and the sideburns and everything, and they are extremely committed. Orthodox Jews, some call them. These were the people that this Shabbat is. And God said that these people and many other organizations like them have a strong hand in American politics. He said they highly influence high-level decisions in the United States. It is these ones, for they have strong ties back to Israel, the Lord says, and they have never really assimilated into America, meaning embraced America as home, 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 first on their hearts. He says they've never really assimilated, even though they live here. And this means that Israel has a hand in American politics, and this may be known or unknown to the people. So that is all the prophecies stemming, surrounding American politics from 2020. This is November 2020. In fact, even further back, the prophecy from Barack Obama about Barack Obama and Joe Biden, that collaboration, that partnership was from April 2020, before the race had even settled itself, before any of us knew that Mr. Sanders was just going to suddenly bow out and then somebody would step in and endorse Joe Biden. He literally, look back, catapulted from way out in the wings. He was certainly tailing Mr. Sanders, and then all of a sudden he was the front runner, and then before you know it, it was a done deal. Well, the Lord knew these things, and these things were written in print. They were in print on the Master's voice. And so as we are looking, this is stretching from all the way back 2020 to even now, 2022, the Lord bringing forth this word about the Speaker of the House, that her life will come to a short, sharp end. And also October 19, that there is a strong Jewish presence, a strong Jewish controlling interest that reaches to the highest seats, he said, even involved in the outcome of political process and elections. And so when I heard this in my dream, I then woke up and did the necessary research, and this is what I'm bringing to you now about what that Shabbat is. I don't know if it's an acronym. I did not actually stop to see if it is a word that means something on its own. So this is Celestial with the Master's voice. Thank you for being with me, and may your faith be rooted in the Lord and not in the news. May your faith be rooted in the God that saved you, the God that has kept you until this time. The Lord has preserved many of the people watching these videos. You know that you would not have made it this far if Jesus Christ had not reached out his hand of mercy to bring you out of certain things that were destroying you. And if you are in the process now of things destroying you, this is the time to call upon the name of the Lord, because God is merciful and gracious to whoever calls on him, and he will extricate you out of those things. You know, you take time to get into sin. Don't think that it's going to be a miracle. Sometimes people experience miracles. They experience miracles to come out of sickness, miracles to come out of addictions, miracles to come out of dangerous situations that are maybe endangering their lives. But for most of us, this is a walk of persistence, perseverance, endurance, and faith, meaning that God is pleased to see that you will keep believing him even when that sickness is bothering you, that you will continue to speak the word of God, that Jesus Christ was beaten, his stripes are what heal you, and you will continue to confess that in the face of sickness until the sickness begins to loosen and break down like old dough and finally let you free. The addiction begins to loosen and break down. That wrong gender association begins to loosen and break down. Demons cannot outlast the word of God. They cannot outlast the fire of the Holy Spirit. They cannot outlast the blood of Jesus. It is impossible. That's why the Bible says that our weapons are not carnal, but they are mighty through God to pull down these stubborn strongholds. But if the stronghold is out there being stubborn, and then we're just, well, I'm tired, it's been a few years. It doesn't work like that. It does not work like that. The Bible says that lady had an issue of blood for 12 years, sick for 12 years. And does it say she stayed at home and cried and said, why is God not answering my prayers? No, it says she had exhausted all she had, which means that this was a very determined lady. Determined how? She was determined to empty that piggy bank, not to be sick. She had spent all she had looking for a solution, and she just happened to be on the road that day when Messiah was passing by. Her solution from him was free. But if she had spiraled into depression, or I don't think God loves me, I asked him for 5 months and he didn't answer. It does not work like that, especially now that we are closer to the end than we have ever been before. Endurance is a hard weather fruit. What does that mean? You will never find out how much you can endure until there's stuff to endure. And if these prophecies aren't stuff that require us to get busy with a pickaxe, shovel, and hoe, breaking open these hard rocks to find out where is my endurance in the day of adversity, I literally do not know what will. There's no sugar here on this platform. Never, ever will be. Just the pure, raw, prophetic word of the Lord coupled with the scripture to show that these things are from the mouth of the Lord. And I'm doing my very best to do him proud and deliver them as I receive them. God bless you. Thank you for those of you who support this ministry. You are appreciated. There is no pressure. So until I see you again, may the Lord bless you and return what you give to you. There is no pressure. I repeat. God bless you. Take care and goodbye.